The key to a happy life
is really just 4 things.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Sult. I'm a medical doctor and functional medicine practitioner.
I'm Elizabeth, an RN, and also the wellness coach here at Just Be Well. When thinking about what steals me from having a happy life day to day, I think the first and one of the most important is my words. And when I think of my words, I think of my conversations with myself and with others. And do I use emotionally charged words? Because we forget how much power the words we use have on our lives. So are you saying, I hate this and I hate that, and oh, I love this so much and I love that? Or, those words hold so much power and we don't give them credit for the power that they hold.
And they rob you of emotional flexibility. If everything in your life is either awesome or I hate it, there's no flexibility for nuance.
Yeah, it's okay to just be okay. You don't have to be super high or super low. You can just be okay. And then another thing is when I'm having conversations with people, am I truly having a conversation with them? Or am I just being conflict avoidant? And am I using words that I think they want to hear? Or am I not using words that I think they don't want to hear because I'm afraid that we'll have a disagreement about it?
Right.
So I'm, trying to change myself, or maybe I'm trying to change the other person. Maybe I'm being too assertive in trying to get my point across and change their perspective. And sometimes I jump to conclusions. I take things too personally. Something little that someone says, I take it as something they're saying against me, when perhaps it's just something that they're saying. It's something they're sharing that they perhaps don't like, and it has nothing to do with me.
We go from, I don't like chocolate cake, to you thinking, you don't like my chocolate cake. Oh my God, you don't like any of my cakes. You don't like my cooking. You don't like me. These are jumping to conclusions and being wounded.
Or maybe instead of, taking things the wrong way, you take them too much the right way. People are saying nice things about you and it overinflates you.
I sort of call this the rock star complex. People get to a point where, like rock stars, they don't feel normal unless they're on stage with 40,000 fans screaming at them. And sometimes, we get to a point where unless everybody in our environment is telling us what wonderful human beings we are, we don't feel like enough.
Yeah, and I think social media is a big culprit of this. I think, when we put those posts out there,
if I don't get 3,000 likes in the first 10 minutes,
you're like, oh no, this is wrong. These feelings I was having was wrong. This picture is wrong. And it's not.
The other thing that happens is we just misunderstand. And we're afraid to clarify. We're afraid to ask questions, but if you assume, the old proverb, assume is to make an ass, ASS, out of you and me, which of course spells assume. The other thing is sometimes we just beat ourselves to death. We think, oh, I didn't say that right. Or, oh, I wasn't quite right. Say it again. Say it differently. Don't let who you think you should be beat up on who you are. You are fine the way you are, and just be. And you know what? We misspeak. I can't tell you how many times I read transcripts of my conversations and I said exactly the opposite of what I meant. It just happens. It is human. Before we get to the solution, I want to invite you to stick around to the end because we've got some great free stuff for you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.
What are the 4 things or keys to a happy life? I think it first starts with your words. Being impeccable with your word.
Speaking with humility, compassion, and integrity.
We can be sincere and truthful in a compassionate and loving way.
When I say impeccable, it doesn't mean, only my opinion matters. There needs to be some humility with that, because really the goal of every conversation in a impeccable manner should be really first to understand what the other person is trying to say. So if your only goal in a conversation is to convince, you're not really being impeccable, because The impeccability really requires humility, and humility dictates that you may not be right.
Mm-hmm.
You may be right, but unless you consider all points of view, you may not. If your idea does not stand up to scrutiny, it's not a very good idea.
Mm-mm. I think we really have to be cautious of the words we use as well. We're either, building up or being constructive, or we're tearing down and being deconstructive with our vocabulary.
And if we're doing that, and we're speaking with humility and compassion and integrity, then suddenly the world changes for us.
And number 2, don't take anything personally.
Taking things personally is about judging yourself, self-judgment. Again, it goes back to don't let who you think you should be beat up on who you really are. When you're taking things personally, you're assuming that things are your fault. But the truth is, unless you went out to hurt someone, which of course wouldn't have been being impeccable with your word, what their reaction is isn't really about you. It's about them and their worldview. When we say don't take anything personally, it doesn't mean only your opinion matters and nobody else matters. It just means don't allow it to affect your view of yourself. Use it as reflection, but think more about self-regard and self-awareness and being fully aware of your flaws and your weaknesses as well as your strengths.
Yeah. For me, it's really about not taking the things that other people say and do to me personally. It really has to do with them and their perspective and where they're at. It doesn't contribute to the vocabulary of who I am because they're not me.
Exactly. They're not me. They're reacting to what I said based on their own world view. So the next idea, don't make assumptions. We already talked about assumptions, but when are you making assumption? Good communication is about mirroring back. So somebody says, I'll meet you at the mall at 10, say, okay, I'll see you at the mall at 10. That clarifies. It avoids those misunderstandings. And that's a trivial example, obviously, but mirroring back can be really crucial. And then if you're hearing somebody and you're just not understanding, what kind of things can you do?
You can ask. You can simply ask.
What a concept.
Or clarify.
For some reason, we're afraid to ask. We're afraid to ask. Well, get brave. Mirror back, clarify, ask, reiterate. Do what you need to do to get clarity. Don't make assumptions.
And especially if those assumptions is creating a negative feeling inside of you, that's really the important time, the most uncomfortable time probably, especially if you feel like you're being attacked or you're angry about what they said. That's the time to really step up and ask. Ask now. Don't ask in 3 months when you've avoided them and you haven't talked to them about this one conversation.
And then always do your best.
Yeah. Last but not least, always do your best. And what does best mean, really? Is best perfection?
No. So, we think that best is all or none, do or die, drag it across the line at all costs, kill yourself trying. That's not your best. That's just flat insanity.
Sometimes my best is honestly staying in my pajamas all day, consuming some coffee, and keeping the children alive. And that was my best for the day. But yeah, sometimes our best is listening to ourselves and what can we accomplish today at our best level. And some of it is we can't accomplish a lot, and that's okay.
And it's okay. And if today is better than yesterday, it's not permission to beat yourself up about yesterday, because yesterday, given the totality of your circumstance, you were doing your best.
Every day is a new
Every day is a start.
A new start. Yep. You don't have to start down here because of yesterday or up here because of yesterday. It's always
new. And it's not making up for yesterday. It's just starting over. Every day is starting over, and you're doing your best. And every moment you're doing your best. These 4 things. Be impeccable with your word, which really means to have humility, compassion, and integrity with your word. Don't take anything personally. Remember that everything that happens is the reflection of the other person's worldview. Don't make assumptions, and do your best. And you can find more information about this in a book called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's a great book.
It's a great book.
What have you made assumptions about today? And what can you do to clarify right now or very soon, right?
Mhm.
Think about that. We all make assumptions all day long. What can you do?
And how can you become aware of your assumptions?
So we're making these assumptions all the time. I mean, it is part of the human hardwiring. We complete things. Our brain completes things. So we need to be careful that we're not completing things based on our worldview. We need to be striving hard to complete things on the person who's trying to communicate with us worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, what is it going to take for you to start asking questions, to clarify?
It comes down to just being present in the moment.
Exactly.
Present in your conversations. When you're listening, listen. Listen to what they're saying. Don't think about what you're going to say in response, because you're probably going to miss a few key words. And then I think that's how you get off on the wrong track of assuming you heard when you didn't hear. So really listen to people. And then after you're done listening, you mirror back and reflect. And then perhaps you can join in on your perspective of the conversation.
So listen, if you like this content, this channel is about functional medicine, and that includes everything from spirituality all the way to elimination and everything in between, and whole life wellness. Please subscribe. Please hit the bell so you get notifications. And down in the description, there's a link to a website where you can leave your contact information so you can participate in live webinars, Q&As, and other cool stuff. We'll see you next time.
Bye.